Are you ready to raise the bar of health to access more love, peace, happiness, and joy? Then let's address the multidimensional aspects of our lives. It's time to wake up medicine. I'm Dr. Arlene Dijamco, and you're watching the Multidimensional MD. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Arlene Dijamco. Thank you so much for being here. This is episode 14 of the Multidimensional MD. And today I wanted to talk to you about just my thoughts on virtual school, virtual work, because that's a reality that a lot of us are dealing with right now. And whether your kids are like 100% virtual, or you're working virtually, or you're doing some sort of hybrid model, half and half, anything in between, or your kids are able to go back into school, the reality is at any point we may have to pivot and become virtual. So let's talk about that. I know there's so many questions, there's so many concerns, and I by far do not have all the answers, but I'm gonna just share with you what has been working for us and what's helped me sort through all of it. Because it's a lot that the world's asking us right now, trying to maintain some sort of like family life, social life, keeping up with friends, and then we're also not able to have a lot of physical contact. But the thing is that we want to just keep it simple, keep the priorities, and choose to grow. Because by keeping it simple, you really kind of know what is really important to you. And so I thought about this, like earlier we had a choice of hybrid versus virtual. Right now, my kids, we don't have a choice, it's all virtual. But I thought about it, I was like, okay, in school versus virtual, pluses and minuses. And when it came down to it, they're gonna learn no matter what. It ended up, we weren't able to choose, but at the same time, they're going to learn no matter what. It may not look like the kind of learning that we're used to, but it may not be all bad either. Because as soon as those schedules got posted, my oldest, she printed them all out. She wrote them all out by hand too. I hadn't even looked at the schedule, so I have 4 kids, and then she posted them on the fridge. She had color-coded them. They figured out when their breaks are together. They figured out when their lunches were and who could have lunch together. And she said, I think I could pitch in and help everyone get their lunch together because a lot of the days I'm in the office. And I thought that was so amazing. And, I'm lucky that I have one that's in high school that can help take care of the little ones. But that's a kind of experience that of course she wouldn't get if everyone was going to school in person. And even though, parts of it would be like, well, I don't know if that's ideal, that's a lot of learning. That is a lot that they're gonna get in a way of just learning how to be independent, learning how to take up some slack, learning how to pitch in the family that maybe they wouldn't get otherwise. And when I thought about like the priorities, I thought, as long as my kids have some sort of meaning in their day, I'm okay with it. If they don't learn any academics and they have some sort of meaning in their day, I feel totally at peace with that. Because at the end of the day, I want them to be healthy and happy and feel like they have some sort of purpose in their lives. And that purpose will kind of break it down some more, because purpose is not always like what in our culture we're so driven to have, like these external measures of success, to get certain titles, to get awards, to get good grades, to perform well, to win, win, win. Well, when all of these external measures are stripped away, like in 2020, when we're not able to go to school, we're not able to have those interactions, we can't even go to work, and maybe we don't get those kinds of rewards, then the question becomes, who are you? And so for me, this time is so essential in getting to know yourself. So we're gonna talk more about the intangibles first. A lot of times I'll go through physical, mental, emotional, then go to spiritual. But today I'm going to do it in reverse. I really want to talk about the intangibles, because these things are very difficult sometimes for people to kind of converse about and discuss. But for me, part of that spiritual learning is getting to know yourself, to really step in and to know who you are when what you knew of the external world is stripped away. And so that can get really deep and profound. And I know depending on your experiences in life, it will trigger anything from the past. And so that can be difficult, but difficult doesn't mean it's all bad. And so getting comfortable with addressing ourselves, even though we go through difficulties, is a huge opportunity. And we know, like, this is going to be temporary. The pandemic in 2020 is going to pass. And so who are we going to be on the other side of that? And who are we going to be as we go through this? Because we have a choice here. The choice is really when the physical is taken away, we have a choice of, do we learn and grow in the spiritual and getting connected with ourselves and others in that way? Or do we spiral down in a spiral down? And, you know, if once you start to see the opportunity in it, then you can start to make those choices on your own. So if you think about getting to know yourself, and I think about this from a social aspect, because if you are comfortable with you, your social interactions are going to be so much more meaningful. And so I think about this for the kids too, because everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're not gonna be able to socialize. What is this gonna mean to them, like, developmentally? Well, as a family, if you can kind of settle into it and really get to know yourself as an individual, get to know your family as a unit, then from there, your interactions with the world are going to have so much more depth to them. And even when we are not able to get in person physically, it can start to grow and have that depth. I know it's challenging, but this is what we are put up to. This is our challenge in 2020, is can we grow in that? And I feel like, yes, we can, but it is a choice. You do have to choose it. So today, Wednesdays are my day off in terms of, I mean, I'm here with all of you, but I don't schedule appointments in my office. I'm back and forth to my office. It's not far from my home. My husband is fortunately able to have some flexibility and work a lot from home. And then otherwise, but everyone's busy, they're doing their own thing. So I have two in elementary, I have 1st grade, 4th grade, 7th grade, and 10th grade. So they have to do a lot on their own. We've kind of worked through a lot of technical glitches in the last couple of days because they just started on Monday. But today I was like, oh, good. I'm gonna be home all day. I'll make lunch for everybody. I'll be here for lunch. Their lunches are kind of staggered. It's like 2 by 2. So what happened was I got lunch, I gave them their lunch, and then I saw, like, the first 2 that came, they had their iPads ready, and they were in a group video chat with friends, and they had put it out on the table, and they were having lunch with their friends. And I was like, oh, this is like a regular school day, kind of, you know, from home. I was like, oh, is this your social time? And they're like, yeah, it's lunch. You know, we usually have a break and we're able to talk with our friends. And I was like, that's so sweet. And I'm thinking, oh, they needed me. I had to be there. You know, I missed a couple of days and I wasn't able to be there all day, and they're at home. And I was really surprised and impressed, and I was like, oh, they're okay. And so like settling into that, and I know every kid is going to be different and their needs are going to be different, but they're able to socialize from a distance. And yeah, they're like, well, it's not ideal, but we still are making an effort to socialize. And I thought that was so beautiful. And I thought that, you know, if you are by yourself, that's a neat thing to do, is like you could schedule a lunch date, a dinner date, and depending on where you are in the world and what you're able to do, if you can't go out, then you can still have this social interaction virtually. Next thing I want to say is that the mind is this incredible tool. So when we're thinking about multidimensional perspective, so it's mind, body, spirit. So many other layers to that too, but if we kind of simplify mind, body, spirit, this is a human experience, all right? So it's difficult. We have all these emotions to it. But we're also these spiritual beings having this human experience. And from a spiritual perspective, We're always okay. We're always this divine light. It cannot be destroyed ever. So then we're at this juxtaposition of the two of that. It is the mind, that's this tool that's bringing together the body and the spirit. And so that's really interesting. Once you start to realize that your mind is a tool, then you can use it for your purposes. And this is where I'm saying, like, you have a choice. So if 2020 is asking us to grow in spirit, then you have the choice of looking at the challenges and embracing them and seeing, where can I have more trust? Where can I learn about myself? Where and I bring spirit more into my human experience, where I have this well of trust that's so deep that I know that I'm okay no matter what. And I know I'm okay, even if I'm having a hard time. So I did a video earlier, I think about a week ago, and it's just like having those hands out as an image and just really settling into that. Like, imagining these big, ginormous hands. And you can call them the hands of God, the universe, whatever you believe in. But imagining yourself stepping into these hands of light and then dropping everything into that, letting your weight drop into that, letting all the tension drop into that, letting your fears and worries drop into that, as well as your hopes and dreams. And so when you feel that, part of you starts to feel kind of weightless, which is an amazing feeling. And that's when you release all of this tension and realize that you're being supported and lifted up despite anything that you're feeling. So this is our challenge in 2020. And part of that is normalizing what you're feeling. So the emotions are part of the human experience. And, because our spirit is always okay, but then emotions can be so difficult. But this is the beauty of being a person, of being alive, is that we get to really feel that and embrace that. And it's the juiciness of living. It wouldn't be interesting if we only felt one way all the time, because even though you may think it's like, oh, I want to be happy all the time. And that's not actually really true, because what if somebody we love passes? You don't want to be like, oh, I'm totally happy. It's not a real authentic human experience. No, you're going to go through the grieving process, which is going to be this beautiful process. You're going to miss and you're going to be sad, and that's okay. So it's the normalizing emotions, so that you're not saying like, no, I shouldn't feel that way. No, this is bad. Being able to call them out and knowing that, you're okay all through this. And just because you're having a stressful experience doesn't mean that you have to stay in a stress response the whole time. I was talking to my kids and I was saying like, oh, because the older ones, some of them, they're not on video the whole time in their classes. And so I thought, oh gosh, wouldn't it be better? Because then the teacher would get to know you, and wouldn't that be a better experience? And they're like, well, would it be a better experience in person? And the technology is less glitchy if people don't have their videos on all the time. So they just have it on when they ask a question. I was like, oh, okay. They're simplifying in their way too. I was like, yeah, that's true. So not having to worry about trying to make it perfect and doing it in a way where it's like finding that ease in it and realizing that it's not perfect and it's a bit of a messy process, but it's okay that it's figure outable, and to roll with the messiness of it and keep going and realizing like, yeah, it's not what we want, but it's going to be okay. So then that is kind of really quickly was like the intangibles, but so important to talk about. But then I also want to talk about the physical parts too. So like setting up in a virtual environment. So first, it's going to be the ergonomics of it. I was checking everybody, and I know there's still some things that I need to do for my kids, because for the little ones, their legs were just hanging on the seats. And that's not really great for your back or for your posture. So I took little step stools and put it under their feet, and I'll be looking for like how to adjust their height so that they can be steady. And this is like really any age, not just the kids, because when I did my podcast from the studio, their table was much higher. And I remember my right feet were dangling on the chair. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to feel grounded and steady if my feet are just hanging. And so they put a box out for me so that I could feel more grounded. And my Tai Chi teacher also tells me, to kind of sit at the edge of the chair, and you kind of want your feet in a position where you can pretty much like stand up at any time. So because otherwise if you're back like this, it's just not a neutral alignment for the spine. I know this is harder for the kids, so it's more you're just gonna have to set them up and so that they're comfortable. But for the adults and the older kids, yeah, if often you can just kind of check in and sit more at the edge of your chair, and make sure that when you can kind of stand up without using your hands. So easily like that. Another thing I thought about was for the keyboards is that if people are typing a lot, is to keep a neutral line of your wrist. So you want to be able to just like let them hang, and like you're playing the piano. You want a neutral line of wrist, because if you start to kind of torque it like that, this is when you're going to get some compression there, and thinking about everyone being online on the computer more, and that's when you're going to get like these computer wrist carpal tunnel like syndromes, which I can help you with, but it's so much easier if you could prevent it in the first place. So none of this kind of typing where your fingers are like this, resting. So your wrist should actually not be resting on the mouse pad or like on your laptop edge. It should be up further than that. Another thing is that second is just getting regular movement, because people are spending hours of time online on the computer. And so regular movement, just getting up and stretching, doing some forward bends. So just literally standing up and letting your head and neck hang, touching your toes, letting everything hang, not cocking your neck up. If you can't stand up, however you're sitting, you could just lean over and kind of do a forward bend over your legs like that, just to relax the back every now and then. And definitely like get up and stretch. The thing is, like when we're sitting in front of a computer, there's going to be a lot of eye strain too. Oh, I wanted to tell you some other things too in terms of the regular movements. It's just doing these kinds of shoulder rolls where you get your shoulders back and letting them drop down. I also like doing some of the mountain or victory poses. So you stand up and then just victory pose. If you do this for a couple of minutes, they have found that this actually helps boost your confidence, like touchdown, victory pose. You could do like yoga sun salutations just to help open up chest, like this idea of expansion, because when we're sitting is a contracted kind of position. And so I want you to just think of these expanded positions and do those every now and then. So going on to just thinking about like the eye strain and the fatigue from not only looking closely at the screen, but also the blue light that's emitted from the screen. So first we're accommodating. So we are looking near, like more near than far, but we're actually built to look far because we're built to kind of like be more in nature. So you want to be, if you have a window, it's like look outside the window every now and then and look far. The American Optometric Association, they recommended something called 20-20-20. And I think of this more for adults because the kids actually want to do it more often. But for adults, it's like every 20 minutes, look up for 20 seconds and look at least 20 feet away. So you really want to expand that peripheral vision. For kids, I want them to look up every 8 minutes or so. And every hour if they can. They really need to be off the screen for about 10 minutes every hour. So depending on the age and what you can do. But for adults, you can just remember 20-20-20. And sometimes your eyes can actually spasm. It creates its tension to look more close at the screen. So if you look too much, then your eyes can start to spasm and you'll start to notice that you lose some of your far vision. So when you're looking far after looking at the screen for a long time, it's maybe a tiny bit more blurry than you're used to. So you don't want that to happen. And the more breaks you can take, then it just lets you kind of reset and relax every now and then. Now about that blue light and melatonin. So blue light, it's like the sky. So main blue light source is from the sun, which is great. It helps establish our circadian rhythms. So the more blue light we're exposed to, then we have less melatonin. And as the sun sets, then we're supposed to produce more melatonin. Well, what's happening is that when we're spending so much time on the computer is that we're getting excessive blue light exposure. And then especially if you're using the computer or any device when the sun is supposed to be setting or is already setting, then you're getting like more daylight exposure when your body's supposed to be getting signals that it's calming down for the night and able to boost more melatonin. This is really important right now, not for just for circadian rhythms, but also because melatonin, it is an antioxidant. It helps to balance your immune system. And they're finding that it's really important in terms of like COVID. So they're actually using it as an adjunct treatment for some people with COVID-19. So if your levels are kind of off, like to me, I'm thinking there's a possibility you're more at risk for like symptoms of COVID, because some people seem to get sick and some people get really sick and some people don't get sick at all. So, paying attention to this device time is really important in the blue light exposure. So there are several things that you can do for reducing the blue light exposure despite having to be virtual a lot. You can get these blue light blockers, which my kids are using right now, otherwise I would show you. So you could get the glasses, the blue light blockers. They're like $20 on Amazon or online, and all different colors, whatever style you want. And we don't have to block 100% of blue light, maybe 20 to 30%, but maybe when you're using the computer a lot, then go ahead and use those. Another thing you could do is you get a shield. So for the little ones who aren't going to be we like putting the glasses on regularly, I would at least think about it. There's a company called Ocushield, and they sell all different kinds of shields. You could use it for your phone if you're using your phone a lot. It's a glass thing that you can put on top. I can't remember what the other ones are made out for, the bigger screens, but those are kind of neat because you can just put it on the whole screen. I know that won't work if you don't own your device, because you can't stick anything on a device you don't own. So if they're school computers, but that's something, if it's school computers, then you may want to use the glasses. Now on the phones, they also have like little apps, or you can set on your iPhone or Android or whatever phone you have. On the iPhone, if you go to night mode or night shift, you can program like what hours to do that. Even decreasing the brightness of your phone will be less blue light exposure. On the Android, you can go to like blue light. There's something you can control the blue light exposure, so you can change that, and you can set the hours for it. It's not going to be, there's also apps that will change the colors of it, and we'll put like a filter over it. So it won't be perfect. We'll change. It will reduce the blue light, and it will also depend on how you can your vision too, because it's not going to be quite as high contrast, and so that can also create a strain if it's difficult for you to read on a device too. But just some options there. And so I just have a few more things I want to tell you. We're going to talk about like the energetics. So if you're really sensitive, then you can be feeling all the buzziness of all of these electronics around you. And one thing that can help balance that is a crystal, a rock called Shungite. And I have a bracelet here. And you can get it in bracelet form. You can get it as a necklace. You could get it as like a decorative piece to put nearby, like those little pyramids. And that helps to balance your energy if you're spending a lot of time on the computer. They also have these little stickers that you can put depending on like if you own your device or not. But, nice, easy thing to do. And so I think I'm going to be ordering a bunch more of those. Let me know if you're interested, because I'll be doing a big order soon. And so I'm going to just spread them out, let my kids pick what they want. If they just want a little decorative piece, they want to wear something, we're going to have some fun with it. And to also help balance you, I wanted to refer you to episode 4 of the Multidimensional MD when I talked to my friend and colleague, Dr. Maria Coffman. So this is electrical you. So she talked about, when you're feeling kind of run down, or you ignored all the easy signals from your body of like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, then your body starts to kind of conserve energy and start to run on like a half battery, but that's not going to be optimal functioning for you. But there are some simple exercises that are great for any age. They're actually great for development. They're great for calming. They're great for focus. And there are these cross-lateral movements. So I'm just going to demonstrate for you. So one easy one is just doing this kind of like marching. And again, Dr. Maria Coffman talks about these more in episode 4. But just, do 10 of these periodically. And that's a great way, helps you get more focus. It helps you just think better. And there's another one that I really love. It's like an X pattern. So just remember, you start with the same hand, the same foot. So you go sweep it over your foot, and you're going to cross like an X with your hand until you get to the other side. Let's see if I can back up and show that to you better here. So you're going to start with hands up like this, and then one hand goes to one side, and you're going to sweep across your body to the other hand. And then you'll do that with your other side, sweep across, making an X here. So you'll do that a few times. Very easy. And, I recommend this to various kids and adults, and I really see the difference in them in their next treatment. I can tell that things have balanced out. I can tell when people are doing their homework. So that's pretty cool. And one last thing is this Starfish meditation, which is in the kids meditation course at All Worlds Health Academy. But this is a nice, easy one. And a ballet teacher told me that she used this in her class when she saw it from the course, and it really helped her class just be more cohesive and concentrate more. So really it's to do it as slow as possible, and it'll depend on how old you are, but you'll just inhale and trace your finger, and then exhale. And you'll inhale. And you can do that on a count of 5, or just nice and slow, and then exhale. And then inhale. And then exhale. And then you just keep doing that and following your fingers. And just doing those few to demonstrate for you, I'm like, oh, that feels really nice and calming. And so that's a beautiful way to start your day before you get online, and able to keep your focus, because it's hard to focus when everything's like streaming. And that's it. I think that's all I have for you today. Let me just see if anyone has any comments. Just post a comment, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you wanted more of those meditations, you can go to allworldshealthacademy.com, and I have a kids meditation course there that I did with my sister and my kids. And also, just FYI, there's a free COVID-19 toolkit that I'll just add to periodically. That one's free. You just have to sign in and you'll have access to it. So I hope that you got something out of that. And if you have any ideas for things that you want me to talk about on this every other week live stream, then let me know. I would love to hear from you. So lots of love to all of you. This is Dr. Arlene Dijamco, the Multidimensional MD.